All worship is wrong when done in public. I must say it plainly at the outset, because if I whisper it, you will excuse it, and if you excuse it, you will continue to live on applause and think it is peace. No, I am not indicting churches or meetings or hymns. I am diagnosing a disease that takes hold the very moment worship is shown, the instant prayer is displayed, it ceases to be prayer and becomes a performance. Take heed that ye do not your alms before men to be seen of them, and I tell you, prayer is no different. The moment we angle the heart to be seen, even by the cleverest part of our own mind, we have altered the substance. You will want to argue, I know, that your intention is pure, that the candles and the posture, that the voice you use in public are all unto God. I am not questioning the room in which you stand. I am questioning the motive standing in you. Are you using God for effect, for approval, for identity, for influence? Do you wish even secretly to be known as a prayerful person, a spiritual person, a person who helps? Then you are worshiping the image of self. That is what I mean by public. You can be in a crowded sanctuary and still be in secret, and you can be in a dark closet and still be in public if you are performing for your own inward audience. When thou prayest, enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret. The door is not wood, it is motive. Shut it. I am giving you this not as a social critique. I have no interest in rearranging furniture on the deck of this world. I am speaking to the inner group who will do the work. Students, not spectators. We are asked to become instruments through which I, the only I, praise. For the purpose of this training, you must assume there are two of you. You, with your name and history and skill with words, and I, the living presence, the I am that was before Abraham. One of you seeks to be seen, one cannot be seen, and yet is all the seeing there is. True prayer is the I communing with itself. The personal self is silent, a beholder, a witness. If the personal self speaks to be recognized, even inwardly, you have stepped into public and lost the weight of the sacred. Do not hurry past this. If this instruction troubles you, let it. Better to be troubled now than to spend another year polishing your mask and calling it ministry. Be still and know that I am God. Not be interesting, not be eloquent. Be still. In stillness, there is no stage. In secrecy, there is no performance. That secrecy is not optional. It is the only safety you have, and it is the only protection that prayer has from your ego. If this tape were to get into the wrong hands, I would rather it had never been made. I must ask you not to pass on what you will hear in the next weeks until you yourself have completely mastered it, because used publicly, it will betray you. Used secretly, it will save you. We will, as we proceed, practice a way of becoming so still that the personal me yields to the inner I, and the prayer begins without your mouth and without your performance. It is a simple way, but it will take you not less than 3 to 4 months to even begin to accomplish, and never less than daily attention. I warn you now, you cannot do this for show. You cannot do it to get. When ye pray, use not vain repetitions, and that includes repeating the presence of God to bend life to your plan. We will not use God for a purpose. We will surrender purpose to God. And so, for today, for this hour, accept the hard sentence. Hold it close. Keep the purpose of it secret. Begin with one resolve, that every time you feel the impulse to be seen worshiping, you will shut the door within and say, not to the room, not to your image, but to your innermost, be still and know I am God. Now then, for the purpose of this work, you must assume there are two of you. Not in truth there is, but one but for instruction you must hold two. There is you with your name, your well-formed opinions, your beautiful phrases, your anxious need to make prayer work. And there is I, the I that was before Abraham, the I am that is life itself. One of these talks about God. One is God expressing itself as your very being. When two of you are praying, only one must be heard. The other must be still, a witness, a beholder. Be still and know that I am God. Not your eloquence is God, not your intensity is God. I am. Do you see now why so much that passes for religion in public rings hollow, even when it is moving, even when it stirs tears? It is the outer self speaking about a God it hopes to convince, a congregation it hopes to persuade, a guilt it hopes to quiet, a problem it hopes to fix. That self is very sincere, yes, but sincerity in the outer self is still performance. It is still the stage, and the instant your prayer has a stage, it has lost substance. Take heed that ye do not your alms before men, to be seen of them. I include in men that inner audience who loves to watch you be spiritual. If you are praying to be seen by your own self-image, you are in public, though no human ear hears you. Let us name the disguises, because if you do not know their names, they will wear you. Praying to persuade God, this is bargaining, a transaction. Praying to be seen as spiritual, this is branding. Praying to calm guilt, this is self-soothing, not surrender. Praying to fix appearances, this is magic, the attempt to use God for a purpose. None of these are wicked. They are simply powerless because they proceed from the person who imagines he or she is the doer. I can of mine own self do nothing. And if the Master had to say that, how much more must we? True prayer is the I communing with itself in you while the personal sense of you yields and watches. And if you are watching, you are not directing. If you are beholding, you are not performing. I must ask you, therefore, to adopt a new goal. No longer shall you try to get God to do anything. The Father needs no getting. The government is upon his shoulder. Your work is to yield the personal doer, to retire the actor, to remove the audience, and to become the still instrument by which I governs. At first, you will not like this. At first, the outer you will feel useless, silenced, even threaten good. Better that you learn this now than spend another season improving your lines and calling it prayer. We are not improving the speech. We are removing the speaker until the one speaks itself as you. And when that happens, you will know, for the tone changes within. Instead of you addressing God, you will feel addressed, "Fear not, for I am with thee." You will hear, not with ears, "I will never leave thee nor forsake thee." Secrecy, then, is not concealment from people. It is protection from the ego that feeds on being witnessed. Enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, the door is motive. Shut the door on being admired, even by yourself. Shut the door on proving that prayer works. Shut the door on fixing things. Shut the door on guilt pacifying and anxiety management. Shut the door on all that would make a stage of your soul. In that inner room where no applause can reach, where no verdict of success or failure is rendered, you will find the I that prays without words, that governs without effort. There, the two of you become one, not by the outer self growing bigger, but by the outer self becoming quiet enough to behold. Be still and know I am God. Be still, you with the name. Be still, you with the plans. Be still and let I, your very life, be heard. Now then, let me be very clear, and I ask you to accept this as law for this work. Do not publicize what you have not demonstrated. Do not teach what you cannot live. If the truth you carry has not yet become your consciousness through practice and proof, to speak it aloud is to tempt the ego to take possession of it and use it for display. When thou prayest, not if, when, enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret. This is not a suggestion for shy temperaments. This is the safeguard of the sacred. Secrecy is not a preference. It is a spiritual requirement, because the moment your prayer has an audience, even an inward one, your motive is divided, and a divided motive cannot bear weight. I must ask you not to pass on these instructions until you yourself have not believed them, but lived them into demonstration. If this practice were to get into the wrong hands, and by wrong hands I do not mean bad people, I mean proud motives, it will be used as a method, a technique, a lever on life. And the instant you attempt to use God for a purpose, you have stepped out of God and into personality, and what follows is manipulation, quiet, religious manipulation perhaps, but manipulation nonetheless. Better that such a one never heard these words. I would rather this tape had never been made than that it become another prop in the theater of self. Secrecy restores weight because it removes the scaffolding of approval. When no one can see you, and when not even your own cleverness is allowed to admire you, what remains? Motive remains. And under the gaze of the Father, which seeth in secret, pretense cannot stand. In that closet, there is nothing to perform, nothing to prove. It is here that sincerity is born. It is here that prayer begins to have substance. Be still and know I am God. Be still and discover whether you came to get or to yield. Be still until the getting melts, and only yielding remains. Now, do not misunderstand me. Secrecy does not forbid outward forms. If your heart bows upon the knees, bow. If your fingers love the rosary, let them love. If the candle on your table reminds you to walk in the light, then light it. Attend your church, sing your hymn. Only this, keep the purpose of it secret. Do not announce your fasts. Anoint thine head and wash thy face. Let no man, and not even your inner audience, be permitted to say, spiritual. If you must choose between a public reverence and a secret silence, choose the silence, because there is more worship in one hidden breath of surrender than in 1,000 eloquent performances. And here is the ethical pivot that will govern all we do. Prayer must never be a weapon. Put up thy sword. That word is not only for the hand, it is for the mind, the tongue, the intention. You cannot pray rightly for a result that crushes, humiliates, or proves another wrong. You cannot pray to win an argument, to triumph in a lawsuit, to make your plan outshine another's plan. That is fighting, and where there is fighting, there is no prayer, for prayer begins where aggression ends. I can of mine own self do nothing. The doer who fights cannot be the beholder who yields. Therefore, I must require of you in this next stretch of work that you practice secrecy as discipline. Do your hours without announcement. Let the schedule be known to none but your inner eye. When you have a glimpse, do not publish it. When you have a healing, do not hurry to be credited. Take your gratitude into the closet and say only, be still, and know I am God. In time, and not less than months, I tell you, you will notice a new weight in your prayer, a gravity that was not there before. It will not be the gravity of your personality, it will be the substance of presence. And when that substance speaks through you, you will not be the one speaking, and you will not desire to be seen. You will simply behold, and it will be enough. Now then, take this as a law for the rest of your work. You cannot pray while fighting. Put up thy sword. That is not poetry. It is instruction. Aggression is not only fists and lawsuits. Aggression is the mind that resists, the heart that argues, the tongue that must correct, the motive that presses for outcome. Aggression is judging another's worship so that your worship may appear superior. Aggression is battling the condition as if the condition had power and you must outshout it. Aggression is the inward debate that writes briefs against your fear, as if more words could win the case. All of that is fighting, and where there is fighting, there is no prayer, because prayer begins where fighting ends. He maketh wars to cease. Be still, and know that I am God. Do you see that the stillness is the proof that war has ceased in you? Public religiosity, as we have said, is very often organized aggression. It is performance designed to win approval, win an argument, win status, win a result. When you speak so that men admire, you are fighting to conquer their opinion. When you pray to make your plan prevail, you are fighting the order of the I that already governs. When you offer testimonies before transformation, you are fighting time, trying to bank credit on what is not yet your consciousness. This is why I insist on secrecy. It removes the contest. Without an audience, there is no one to outperform. Without an audience, there is nothing to win. In secret, the motive has no place to hide. Either you yield or you fight. And if you are fighting, you will feel it at once: restlessness, heat in the thought, a tightening behind the eyes. When you notice that, stop. Do not proceed. I can of mine own self do nothing. Put up the mental sword and be still. I must answer the question that is already forming. But are we not to testify publicly? Are we not to let your light so shine before men? Yes, but listen to the order of the Master. Thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. The open reward is not your announcement, it is the demonstration. Testimony follows transformation. It is report, not display. When the work has ripened to fruit, the tree is known without speech. You may quietly confirm what God has done, but you may not advertise what you hope will happen. See thou tell the low man came just as surely as arise, take up thy bed, and walk. The light that shines is the fact, not the performance. Do not confuse the glow of presence with the glare of publicity. Understand, too, that be still is not relaxation. It is surrender to government. Relaxation tries to keep comfort and control. Surrender releases both. Relaxation leaves you the director of the scene. Surrender dismisses the director. In prayer, we are not soothing ourselves for the next round of combat. We are ending combat. We step out of the ring. We drop the argument with appearances, and we refuse to grant them power. If a claim presents itself, do not square your shoulders as if to wrestle. Withdraw belief. Let get thee behind me, Satan. Address not a person, but the temptation to treat effect as cause. This is non-aggression. It is not passivity. It is authority. It is the authority of I am, which needs no fight to be itself. Therefore, for the next season, do not hurry this before you enter the closet. Examine your motive. If you detect even a trace of competition, of proving, of making something happen, shut the door a second time on that. Say within, gently but with command, be still and know I am God. Do not begin the prayer until the heat cools and the push subsides. When you can sit without trying to persuade God, without trying to win over a condition, without trying to impress any audience within or without, then prayer may begin of itself, and you will find the strange quiet in which the I that is your life governs. That quiet is the sign that the war has ceased in you, and from that non-aggression, the only kind of power that heals flows, not yours, not mine, but the presence that needs no stage and no struggle to be all in all. Now then, I am going to give you the practice, but I must require of you that you do not hurry it, and that you do not advertise it. Expect resistance. At first, you may not enjoy it. You may not even approve of it. Your cleverness will call it simplistic. Your nerves will call it boring. Your ambition will call it unproductive. Good. That is the sign that the personal doer has been asked to sit down. This practice, taken seriously, will require not less than 3 to 4 months before it begins to become a constituted part of your consciousness, and never less than daily work close to an hour each day, and several short returns besides. If you cannot grant that time, do not pretend to yourself that you have undertaken it. We do not dabble, we submit. The word you will use is not a charm. Do not make of Scripture a lever. Be still and know that I am God. Use it as address, not as device. You, of course, cannot use it as a formula to secure a result. If you try, you will have only the sound of your own mouth against your own ears, and you will grow irritated. No, take it as the inner speech of I to the restless surfaces of you. For the purpose of instruction, remember there are two of you, the named self who feels, thinks, reacts, and I, the life, the governor, the one who is. At first, you will speak. Later, you will be spoken to. At first, you will place the word. Later, you will hear it placed within you without your arranging. Sit. Do not dramatize this. No incense is required. If you use it, keep the purpose of it secret. Close the door, not only the room's door, but the motive's door, and begin without rush. Address quietly, as one standing just above the head, looking down, not scolding, but governing. Be still and know I am God. Say it to the thinking that is already preparing tomorrow's errands. Be still. Say it to the emotion that is rehearsing old offenses. Be still. Say it to the breath that hurries, to the shoulders that climb toward the ears, to the hands that are already making lists. Be still and know I am God. No intention to get, no bargaining, no proving. You are not trying to make something happen. You are letting what is always happening become apparent by ceasing to compete with it. Do not measure. Do not rate your performance. Do not peek at yourself to see if you look mystical. If you catch yourself admiring your depth, dismiss the audience and begin again. This practice loses its substance the instant it is used to produce an image of spirituality public, even if there is no person in the room. Keep it secret. Thy Father which seeth in secret does not require your mirrors. Now, here is the progression, and you must not be discouraged if it takes weeks. First, your words will sound like your words. No harm in that. Keep placing them gently, as one placing warm blankets over a child. Do not push. Do not command with heat. The proof that you are not fighting is that the body and the thought begin gradually to accept government without resistance. After many days, yes, weeks of steady addressing, there will come a moment when the tone within changes. You will notice that the phrase did not come from your tongue or from your rehearsing mind. It arrived, it addressed you. Not I say be still, but be still, and the knower in you knows who is speaking. Along with it will come one or two of the old words that are always new. Fear not. I will never leave thee, nor forsake thee. When this happens, do not seize it. Do not congratulate yourself. Be the beholder. Let I speak. You will find yourself answering not with words, but with yieldedness. The government has shifted. You will want to ask, how long shall I sit? Long enough for heat to cool, for push to soften, for you to cease managing the hour. Sometimes 5 minutes will suffice for that shift, sometimes 40. Make your daily long period, and then several times during the day, return to it for 5-minute periods at the desk before you answer, in the car before you step out. in the kitchen before you lift the phone. Each return is not an achievement, it is a surrender. Be still and know I am God. This is the doorway to what follows. If you are faithful here, we will go on to remove the audience inside your own head and to train the body as student under one government. We will begin to speak, not to impress, but to instruct the flesh and the nerves until they learn silence. And then, when they are still, you will no longer be the one saying, be still. Presence will have taken up its own address in you, and prayer will be occurring without you as a performer, without you as a persuader, with you only as witness. That is the goal, that is the weight, and it is all in secret. Now then, let us take up the next necessity, and I must ask you to hear it as instruction, not as critique. Isn't your body your patient? Isn't your body your student? If so, who is the teacher? Not the busy mind, not the anxious planner, not the one who thinks healing is the result of superior techniques. The teacher is I, the inner governor. Therefore, the body must be brought under government, gently, steadily, as a pupil brought to quiet in a classroom, not by threat, not by force, but by the presence of one who knows. Be still and know I am God. Your body is not the master. It is the student that must learn silence so that it can receive instruction. But before you can teach the body, you must dismiss a very noisy class member, the inner audience. I mean that part of the mind that perches in the balcony and watches you pray. It admires your composure, grades your depth, rehearses how this will sound when you tell it, and even congratulates you for not wanting to tell it. That, my dear friend, is public worship inside the skull. That is the stage. And I tell you, as surely as if you stood under a spotlight, the moment that audience takes its seat, sincerity drops through the floor. Take heed that ye do not your alms before men to be seen of them. Include in men the inner critic and the inner admirer. Secret prayer is secret there first. Dismiss them. How is that done? Not by fighting, because you cannot pray while fighting, even if the fight is with your own thought. We return to our vantage. Become the beholder above the mind, not the mind straining up toward God. For the purpose of this work, assume your position as if a few inches above and a little behind the head, looking on, not staring at any one thought, not chasing any feeling, simply present as governor, not as performer. From there, quietly, you address, not lecture, not argue, be still and know I am God. Say it to the mind that is watching you. Say it even to the one that is pleased with your progress. The audience is not evil. It is merely untrained. Release it from duty. There is nothing to watch here, because this is not a show. Understand, too, that stillness is not blankness. Do not attempt to scrub the mind to white walls. Blankness is an achievement of the will and has no holiness in it. Stillness is receptivity. It is space made for the government. You are not voicing. When you are still, you are not producing silence. You are yielding to it. I can of mine own self do nothing. Let that be your posture. Nothing of persuasion, nothing of self-evaluation, nothing of timing. The proof that you have begun to be receptive is simple. The tension to improve yourself as a prayer relaxes, and the room within is no longer a theater, but an altar without audience. At this point, some will say, but how do I know the audience is gone? You will know because the itch to look at yourself will be absent. The phrase will come sometimes without words, fear not, or only the old anchor, be still, and you will not turn to pick it up like a trophy. You will remain the beholder. Even if a sweetness comes, do not pet it. Even if a light comes, do not narrate it. Let it be. It is not yours. It is I. Thy Father, which seeth in secret, needs no commentator. Keep the purpose of it secret, even from the part that yearns to make it important. Now, Since the body is your student, we will not leave it untaught. In a moment we will not rush. We shall begin a quiet inner scan, not as a technician manipulating levers, but as the governor moving through a household, kindly, with authority, saying to each room, to each member, to each nerve and sinew, be still. The body will be asked to accept one government from head to feet under one law. Not blank, not numb, not heavy, but available. If anything in you starts to rate the performance good today, poor yesterday, kindly usher that rater to the door. No inner audience, no self-evaluation, only receptivity. This is the removal of the stage from the mind and the enrollment of the body as student. And when those two are in order, no spectators, only presence, then prayer begins to happen as itself, and you, named and useful, are once again the beholder of I being I. Be still and know I am God. Now then, we will not rush. Assume your place as beholder, not the performer, not the director, just above and gently behind the head, as one who governs by presence, not by pressure. Remember, you are not making anything happen. I can of mine own self do nothing. We are yielding all faculties to the one government of I, head to feet under one law. Begin at the head, at the brain's bright confusion, the planner, the sermon maker, that would explain God to itself, and then sell the plan back to you. Look down into that busy room, and with no scolding at all, with the calm authority of truth, say, be still, and know I am God. Be still, thought that compiles verses to impress. Be still, mind that stacks tomorrow's errands like stones. Be still, and know I am. We are not improving thinking. We are removing the director. Let the hum subside until it is only receptivity. Now the eyes, the jaw, the throat, these are the doors of speech and display. The eyes that scan for an audience even when there is none, the jaw that tightens to hold opinion, the throat that clears to speak spirituality. Let the lids soften. Let the hinge of the jaw release all verdicts. Let the throat be wide and empty of any need to utter holiness. Thy Father knoweth what things ye have need of before ye ask. Therefore, be still. Be still. Eyes, you do not need to see yourself being spiritual. Be still. Jaw, you do not need to defend truth. Be still. Throat, words may fall like leaves, and the tree will still live. If a phrase wishes to rise, it will, but not as a showpiece. For now, let there be quiet. Be still, and know I am God. Down through the shoulders, arms, and hands, these rush to do prayer, to fix, to manage outcomes, to lay hold upon appearances as if they had power to be gripped, withdraw the impulse to do. Put up thy sword. There is no battle here, and your hands are not healers. I am the life that heals. Shoulders, be still. You do not carry the world. Arms, be still. You will not push the river. Hands, be still. Unclench from methods, from devices, from measuring pulses and results. Let them rest open, not offering, not taking available. The absence of grasping is your sign that non-aggression is present. Be still and know I am God. Now the chest, the diaphragm, the solar plexus, the weather of the soul. Here the surge begins that turns prayer into plea or panic. Here the breath hurries to talk God into kindness, as if God needed persuading. Say into this sea, peace, be still. Let the sternum drop the armor of urgency. Let the breath widen and flow without any drama. Be careful for nothing. Not careless, carefree in God. Emotions, you need not lead worship. You may be congregants now. If a tear rises, let it rise and fall like rain. No story, no bargaining. Thy will be done. Be still and know I am God. Down the spine and through the hips, legs, and feet, the pillars and the gate to ground. Many of you have used posture as performance. Lay that down. You are not being graded on poise. You are accepting government. Spine, be still, under one law. Not stiff, not collapsed available. Hips, release the bracing that says, I must hold myself together. Legs, learn the leisure of trust. Feet, be shod with the preparation of peace. Let the ground be God's and rest in it. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. The earth is the Lord's. You are not hovering in anxiety. You are grounded in presence, not in pose. Be still and know I am God. Now feel the whole household under one government, head to feet, no room issuing orders of its own, no committee meetings, no stage. If any inner audience returns to take notes, dismiss it kindly, not a show. If any impulse to hurry arises, answer as before, be still. And wait not to make something happen, but to notice what already is. There will come a moment, you cannot schedule it, when the address no longer seems to come from you. The word is within you, but not yours. Fear not. I am with you always. You will feel prayed rather than praying. Do not seize it. Do not add your echo. Simply be the beholder while I, your very life, is the prayer. In that instant, stillness has become prayer because the personal self has ceased to direct and the whole being yields to the one who alone is. Be still and know I am God. Now then, let us diagnose the emptiness that so often attends public prayer, and I must ask you to hear this without defensiveness. Prayer becomes empty the instant God is drafted into service for the personal self. When prayer is a tool to get health, to get money, to get outcomes, to get reputation, God has been reduced to an instrument and the person is the operator. Do you not see how inverted that is? I can of mine own self do nothing. The personal self says, I can do much if only God will help me do it. That is not prayer, that is engineering. And the moment we begin to engineer, tension enters. The jaw tightens, the throat clears, the chest rises to persuade the Almighty. The tone becomes bargaining, the result becomes the agenda, and all the while the presence, which is our life, waits not to be used, but to be yielded to. Be still and know that I am God. Public worship, by its nature, tempts this misuse because an audience, outer or inner, makes us reach for effects. We speak to be impressive. We select verses to sound powerful. We ask for blessed outcomes with an ear tilted toward applause, even if none are clapping. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. The reward of performance is the sensation of having performed, and it evaporates when the people go home. But secret prayer seeks God for God's sake. It rests in being, not in bargaining. It says, thy kingdom come, not my kingdom improve. It says, thy will be done, not let my plan be anointed. And because there is no audience, there is nothing to sell, nothing to decorate, nothing to win. Thy Father which seeth in secret is enough. Do not miss the subtlety. Even noble purposes can be seized by ego. You may announce a fast for the poor and still be feeding your own hunger to be praised. You may pray for the sick and still be auditioning for the role of savior. You may help a neighbor and still need to be known as the helper. That need to be known is the public within the mind. It empties prayer because it divides motive. A divided motive cannot bear weight. Keep the purpose of it secret, even from your own pride. Anoint thine head and wash thy face, and ask nothing of men, not even their silent admiration. Now, compare the two postures by their fruit. When God is used for a purpose, prayer grows hot, hurried, and argumentative. The nerves become a council of war. Time becomes an enemy to be beaten. Results are measured and rehearsed before they arrive. You will feel, if you are honest, a push in it, but when God is allowed, when I is permitted to govern, as I, the air clears, stillness returns. There is no contest, and therefore no sweat. Take no thought for your life. Taking no thought does not mean negligence. It means surrender of control. In that surrender, the heart knows, though the senses have not yet reported it, it is I, be not afraid. The tone of prayer changes from pleading to presence. You will tell me, and rightly, that the greatest test of this sincerity arrives when appearances shout, when the claim of disease bears down, when fear stalks at night, when employment vanishes, when a child trembles. Yes, that is the proving ground, not of eloquence, but of motive. Will you now use God to push back the picture, or will you yield to the eye that is never threatened by pictures? Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Added, not wrestled for. Added, not staged. In that hour, if you turn secret, shut the door, deny yourself an audience, and be still, really still, you will find the difference between public method and living presence. Not a device to control life, but life itself recognized, and when the recognition is clear, the picture begins to lose its borrowed power. But we will not hurry that. We will take up the claims themselves next, and we will meet them where they have no audience. For now, let the diagnosis stand. Prayer loses truth the instant it is used as a method of control. Return to the closet. Return to stillness. Let God be God. Be still and know I am God. Now then, we said we would take up the claims. By claims, I mean the ceaseless parade of appearances that demand your attention and try to seat themselves as powers in your thought diagnoses, germs, contagions, headlines, balances, threats, memories. The world is flooded with them, and every one of them shouts, look at me, treat me as cause, argue with me, fight me. And if you grant them an audience, if you treat them as powers, they inherit the very energy you lend them. Men's hearts failing them for fear and for looking after those things, looking after. Do you see? The gaze is the grant. The audience is the offering. The moment you stage a debate with an appearance, you have already forgotten where power is. Be still and know I am God. Public religiosity too often is fear management with a microphone. We perform prayers to reassure ourselves and to signal to others that all is well. We thicken the voice. We stack promises. We declare outcomes. And under it all the heart trembles because secretly we have granted the claim power and are trying to outshout it. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. The reward is noise. It is a brief comfort that ends when the lights go out. What I require of you is sterner and sweeter. Meet the fear where it has no audience. Shut the door not to keep God in or the world out, but to deny the claim a theater. In secret, the motive cannot pose. In secret, you will discover what you really believe. Here is the private confrontation, and do not hurry it. Enter the closet, take your place as beholder, and first dismiss the inner audience. There is no one to impress, nothing to display. Then you address not the condition, not the germ, not the tumor, not the balance, but the belief that form has power. Get thee behind me, Satan, is not spoken to people. It is addressed to temptation, the suggestion that effect is cause, that shadow is substance. Say it inwardly to the fear, not with heat, not as a fight, but as authority. Get thee behind me, belief in power apart from God. I can of mine own self do nothing. Likewise, the germ of its own self can do nothing. The picture of its own self can do nothing. All power is in the I that I am. Be still and know I am God. Non-aggression is our law in healing. Put up thy sword. You cannot defeat a shadow with a blade. You extinguish it by turning on the light. So you do not battle the claim. You refuse to grant it audience. You withdraw belief. You rest in the presence until the felt sense of I am returns to the forefront, and in that awareness, the claim begins to dissolve into its native nothingness. The very nothingness of the claim precludes the necessity for any God to do anything to it. God is not enlisted to fix pictures. God is, when I is consciously present, pictures lose their borrowed voice. A word for the night hours when fear prowls. Do not deliver a speech to the dark. Sit above the head as governor, not as performer. Address the breath, the chest, the stomach, peace. Be still. Address the mind that rehearses the diagnosis. Be still. Then turn gently to the belief that the diagnosis is a power and say, get thee behind me. Not a brawl, a dismissal. Wait, do not push for a sign. Presently, not always with words, the inner assurance moves. Fear not, I am with thee. When that comes, do nothing with it, receive it. Rest there as long as the presence holds you. If the thought returns to argue, you need not refute it, only withdraw your gaze again. Be still and know I am God. Now then, we must move from letter to demonstration. Knowing this as correct doctrine is useless until it becomes your consciousness. So begin where you are. Meet a small claim, a cold, a sudden flutter of nerves, the old ache that announces rain, and keep the work secret. Do not announce, do not test, do not time it. Withdraw belief, establish non-aggression, rest in I am. When relief comes, say nothing but thank you and go on. These small proofs are the Wright brothers' first 57 seconds. They convince you, not the crowd. After 10 such quiet flights, the runway of fear shortens. After 100, it vanishes. Thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. The open reward is not your speech about faith. It is the fact of dominion quietly appearing where noise used to be. We will enlarge the work, but only as this becomes flesh and blood to you. Be faithful in little, and you will not be fooled later by bigger pictures. Remember, in secret prayer you do not fight the claim, you withdraw belief from it and rest in the power of I am. Be still, and know I am God. Now then, I must tell you the hard truth, and I say it so that you may be free of disappointment later. Knowing the correct words about prayer is nothing unless it becomes consciousness through practice. By their fruits ye shall know them, not by their phrases. Faith without works is dead. And I say, faith without stillness is theory. You can recite, be still, and know that I am God until your lips are sore, and if the government of I has not been established in you through daily yielding, it will be a speech and not a presence. We are not here to become articulate about God. We are here to be governed by God. The only proof that matters is demonstration, quiet, actual shifts in fear, in compulsion, in the very tone of life wrought not by your heat, but by I. Do not despise the small proofs. One honest, secret victory over a nighttime fear proves more than 100 public testimonies. The first moment you recognize, oh, something in me has ceased to push, and yet peace is here. You have touched the principle. That is your 57 seconds in the air. Do not show it to the crowd. Hide it in your heart. Then take another small claim and another. Each time you refuse to fight and choose to be still, each time you withdraw belief from the picture and rest in I am, you are lengthening the flight. Presently, without your announcing it, you will find that where you once hurried to argue, You now turn at once to quiet. Where you once rehearsed verses to persuade God, you are content to be addressed. Fear not, it is I. Be not afraid. The internal markers of progress are not fireworks. They are subtractive. Less explaining, more quiet, less urgency, more government, less me praying, more I present. You will notice that after establishing stillness, you do not feel compelled to say much of anything. You will discover that the appetite to check the clock, to rate the session, to craft a report, these fade. The body receives orders without strain. The mind, no longer a stage, becomes a listening. This is not apathy. It is authority without aggression. Put up thy sword. Authority because you are no longer treating appearances as powers. Non-aggression because there is nothing to defeat when you stand in I. Now, I must normalize the time it takes, lest you grow impatient and return to performance. This is not a weekend improvement. It is months, 3 to 4 months, not less, of daily stillness until it begins to function as your natural state. Close to an hour each day and several 5-minute returns, quiet, unadvertised, woven into the day like breath. Do not hurry it. Do not test it. Do not speak of it. Let the consciousness be built as bone is built, slowly, invisibly, inevitably, until the phrase "be still" no longer feels like a task you perform, but a climate you enter, and then a climate that abides. And now, a word about our community, for we will not remain isolated practitioners. But hear me, even group work must be protected from performance. Our unity is not theatrical, it is inward. If 2 of you shall agree on earth as touching anything that they shall ask, the agreement is not in a plan, not in a clock, not in an outcome. The agreement is in I. We will do united work, yes, but it will not be a display of spiritual stamina. No saviors will be appointed. No reports will be required. Thy Father, which seeth in secret, binds us more closely than any public vow. Keep the purpose of it secret. Meet at the altar within, not on the stage without. When we turn together, we turn to stillness, not to strategy, to presence, not to pressure. So we proceed from letter to demonstration, from speech to fruit, from me to I. The only proof that matters is that the fear loosens, the push is gone, the government is present, and the picture without a fight loses its borrowed voice. Be still and know I am God. Now then, about our united work. I must insist that you do not mistake it for a social event. When 2 or 3 of us agree, it is not an appointment with each other. It is a turning toward I. If 2 of you shall agree on earth as touching anything that they shall ask, the agreement is not in time zones and conference calls. The agreement is that we refuse the role of doer and consent to be governed. There is no selfish reason in this. We are not building a reputation for effective prayer. We are consenting that I be what I am. Life, law, substance. Keep the purpose of it secret. Do not say, we are praying for so-and-so. Do not circulate names. Thy Father, which seeth in secret, is the only witness required. Practically, this is how we will proceed. Take quiet periods, 15 minutes at dawn, 10 at noon, 5 at dusk, unadvertised, unheralded, and in those periods hold no person and no picture, but yield to presence. If a name rises, let it pass through as a leaf through light. We are not mental photographers. We do not decorate the mind with images of the sick becoming well. That is theater for the self. Instead, assume your place as beholder, a few inches above and behind, and address the household. Be still and know I am God. Say it to your own mind first. Be still. Say it through the chest where sympathy can become strain. Be still. Say it through the hands that would reach to fix, put up thy sword, and then abide not with the one for whom you think you work, but in I. The work is that the personal self becomes a witness to I functioning as life. You may feel prompted to whisper, I will never leave you nor forsake you, but know it is not you promising. It is presence speaking within presence. Guard yourself, I beg of you, against spiritual exhibitionism. It creeps in like perfume, sweet, flattering, and it lingers on the garments. To announce that you are interceding is to demand quietly to be needed, to be thanked. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. The only reward of being seen is being seen, and it evaporates. We are not to be known as saviors. We are not healers. I am the healer. Our stance is, I am a witness. I am a beholder. I can of mine own self do nothing. If the temptation arises to write a note, I have been holding you in prayer, you may write it, but do not send it. Let it be burned up in the closet of your heart. Keep the purpose of it secret. Get thee behind me, yearning to be known. When you turn for another, do not push an outcome. Never argue with the picture, even for their sake. Prayer begins where fighting ends. Establish in yourself the complete state of non-aggression, because the moment you fight, you have accepted a second power and divided God. Thy will be done is not resignation, it is authority. Authority because only will can be will when there is but one. In that authority, you will notice a change. Urgency drains away, clarity appears, and sometimes unsummoned, there is the inner word, peace. Be still. Do not say, I gave them peace. Behold that peace, and let I bear its own witness in its own way. For order's sake, some of you will choose days or hours to remember one or another, but you and the Father alone will know. United work is not synchronized speech. It is synchronized surrender. We do not keep minutes. We do not submit reports. We do not ask for testimonies. For the next season, and I mean 3 to 4 months at least, do your turning without announcement. If relief comes to a friend, do not gather credit. Do not even gather the story to savor privately. Let the left hand be ignorant of the right. When thou prayest, enter into thy closet, and thy Father, which seeth in secret, shall reward thee openly. The open reward is the fruit, not your fame. So this is the discipline I lay upon you, and it is for your freedom. Daily secrecy, repeated returns to stillness, and a holy willingness to be unknown. Take your place as beholder. Hold the field of non-aggression. Refuse the crown. Let I be the doer. You may work for others, but you must not seek to be seen as the one who worked. Be still and know I am God. Now then, I must give you the rule, and you must accept it if you intend to go on with this work. For the next 90 days, not less than 3 months, you will keep this purpose secret, and you will return to stillness daily, not as an idea, not as a mood, but as a stated appointment with I. Set aside close to an hour each day. If you must begin with 30 minutes, do so, but you will soon find that the soul requires longer, and in addition, take 3 to 5 minutes several times during the day to return to the posture of the beholder. Do not hurry. Do not test. Do not seek signs. Your task is simple and demanding. Be still, keep it secret, and let presence become your prayer. You may take any posture. Kneel if you must. Sit upright in a chair. Walk slowly beneath a tree. Stand by the sink while the kettle hums. But hear me, whatever you do, do it in secret. No performances for the household, no performances for the mirror, and no performances for the inner audience that wants to watch you being spiritual. When thou prayest, enter into thy closet and shut thy door. Shut the outer door if you can. Certainly shut the inner door. The place is not the point. The posture is not the point. The secret is the point. Be still and know I am God. Success is not visions. Success is not voices that flatter the mind. Success is not a quiver of emotion, and it is never a testimony rehearsed to make you important to others. Success is the descent of peace, tangible enough to feel, quiet enough to rest in, and the sensed governance of I within the mind and body, so that thought ceases its push and the body receives orders without strain. Take no thought. In that climate, you will notice that the prayer prays itself. You are addressed from within. Fear not. It is I. Be not afraid. When that occurs, leave it untouched. Do not frame it. Do not harvest it for later use. Let the manna be manna. Now then, I must set the safeguard. Do not teach this. Do not post it. Do not advertise yourself as one who prays. I must ask you not to pass this on to anyone until you yourself have completely mastered this meditation and it has become as natural as breath. If the impulse to share rises up in you for admiration, for belonging, write it privately on a slip of paper and consign it to the fire of your wastebasket. Better it is never spoken than spoken for the sake of being seen. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. We will not take that reward. During these 90 days you will refrain from fixing people. Put up thy sword. If a claim presents itself, you know the rule. Withdraw belief, enter stillness, refuse to grant the picture a stage. But make this your first work to be governed. For unless you are established in non-aggression, you will pray by fighting, and that is no prayer at all. Each morning, take your place a little above and behind, address the household, be still, and know I am God, and wait until the governance is felt. Several times each day, for 5 minutes, return. At night, before sleep, return again. Keep the purpose of it secret. I am not promising you fireworks. I am promising you companionship, real, steady, and changeless. If you will accept these 90 days, if you will consent to secrecy and stillness, you will discover that you are never alone. Presently, whether you walk or kneel or sit, you will know within yourself the word that is never for display but always for life. I will never leave thee nor forsake thee. When that knowing stands in you, you will not be eager to speak. You will be eager to abide. And in abiding, the open reward appears, not your fame, but the fruit. Be still and know I am God. Keep the purpose secret. Return to stillness. Let I be the prayer.